If I had to describe Wallace's character, I would say that he's somebody who wants to be a part of the game, however on his own terms as much as possible. One could say that he views the game for not what it is in actuality, but rather a sort of social enterprise shared between him and Pooh, which is more than likely how Wallace got into the game, driven out of his mum's flat and into a boarded up row home, where I imagine he was forced into the role of big brother, seeing as though either Wallace steps up and takes care of all these young children, or they all find themselves in a horrible group home similar to the one Randy found himself in.
Go, get up, come on, man.
Damn, Wall.
Damn well it's nothing. That happens like y'all don't go to school. Soon enough, they're gonna be calling around. All y'all gonna end up in foster care. Y'all want foster care? Let's climb your little black ass back in the beds then.
Now, in order for us to better understand Wallace's character, we first need to understand what motivates him. What is Wallace's goal? And the answer to this question is rather tragic, albeit simple, as all Wallace wants is to remain friends with the likes of D'Angelo, Bodie and Pooh, as tragically those friends are all Wallace has got, and such is made apparent when Wallace makes a decision to come back to the pit after the whole situation with Brandon. You see, Wallace doesn't view his relationship with Bodie and Pooh as something exclusive to the game, rather he views it as something entirely separate. To him, they would all still be friends regardless of whether or not they ran the pit together. And so when Wallace moves to the countryside because he can't stomach what happened to Brandon, he's under the impression that such a decision won't affect his relationship with those in the pit. And in all fairness to Wallace, Pooh does give this notion some backing, as he makes it out over the phone as if all is still the same. And it's why you see Wallace act all nonchalant upon returning back to the pit. Now, unfortunately for Wallace, not all his friends share his opinion, as the likes of Bodie doesn't view his relationship with Wallace as something separate from the game. Rather, Bodie views it as a total opposite. He views Wallace as somebody he's only friends with because of their shared involvement in the game. And it's partially why Bodie's so quick to side with Stringer. As to Bodie, a betrayal of the game may as well be a betrayal of your friendship, seen as though you're only friends because of the game. It's like making friends with somebody you work alongside, and once that person leaves, your friendship basically leaves with them. Subsequently, you also now grow closer to those who are still there. I honestly believe that if Bodie were to have gotten into the game for the same reasons Wallace did, he wouldn't have been so, dare I say, eager to kill him. And he might have acted similarly to Pooh, very skeptical and not nearly as willing. When Pooh pointed out Brandon, many seem to forget that Wallace was just as eager to have Brandon taken out as Bodie was to have Wallace taken out. And I'll tell you, Wallace was only this eager because he too, like Bodie, wanted to prove himself to the likes of Avon and Stringer. As let's be real, somebody in Wallace's position more than likely viewed Stringer as not just an authority figure, but also a sort of hero. You see, Stringer and Avon provided Wallace the means to make a living, the opportunity to escape whatever it was that were going on in his mum's flat. Very similar to, say, Chris Partlow and Michael Lee, as Chris were the one who gave Michael the opportunity to save him and his brother. And because of such, Michael looks up to Chris in a way Wallace looks up to Stringer and Avon. And so why wouldn't Wallace jump at the chance to pay back his heroes for all the good they've done? Now, when Michael understood the horrifying nature of the men saving him, Wallace did not. And it's why he was so ruined when he saw Brandon's corpse right outside his home, as he realised that the people he looked up to are completely alien to his own nature. He's been serving under monstrous men.
I mean, yo, when you picked up that phone, what you think they was gonna do, huh? Shit, all that shit is in the game, man, you know that.
Wallace also feels personally responsible for Brandon's death in a way Dee and Pooh don't, as he isn't able to wrap his head around the fact that there were larger forces that doomed Brandon. Whether it were Wallace or whoever, Brandon's fate was sealed the moment he joined with Omar. However, because Wallace can't make peace with this idea, he He resorts to heroin and soon chooses to leave the game entirely, as he's reminded one final time of its brutality.
How the fuck you able to keep the count right? You're not able to do the book problem here.
Count be wrong, then fuck you up.
Stringer and Wallace share many similarities with one another. Their fates are practically identical, and they could both be described as what I described Wallace as in the beginning of this video. That being somebody who wants to be a part of the game, however on their own terms as much as possible. You see, Stringer and Wallace both view the game as something it's not. Wallace a social enterprise and Stringer a business venture. And they both end up seeing the wisdom in D'Angelo's philosophy of selling without killing, simply because it benefits their idea of what they want the game to be. They both try to depart from the game once their new philosophy proves to be impractical, however, yet both come back after realising that they aren't built for a world outside of the street. Wallace and Stringer also snitch on the people they deem a hindrance to their new philosophy, which is actually rather ironic as Wallace snitches on Stringer for the same reason Stringer later snitches on Avon, that being to try put an end to all the violence and murder. They both also wrong Omar Little, and because they underestimated the consequences of a single action, they later find themselves cornered by the two people they left with no choice but to take them out. And they both try to buy their life back with the thing they hold the most valuable. Wallace's friendship and Stringer's money. It's a parallel which ultimately proves that no matter how high up or low down you are on the food chain, the game is still the game, and you either bend to its will, or you wind up dead in a shitty abandoned building.
It gotta be like this, yo. We niggas, man, BC, remember that?
What y'all niggas want, man? Huh? Money?
To truly grasp the complexity of Wallace's character, we need to fully understand the cause of his downfall, and we can do so by answering the most commonly asked question about his character. Was Wallace's death truly the result of his own doing? Or could he have been saved if not for a certain mentality? You see, in the very first scene of the show, McNulty asks a man why he lets Snot Buggy play the game even though he always robs it. To which the man replies that he's got to. It's America. Which for those who don't know, the man is essentially saying that people in the game are not responsible for one another. Your actions are on you, and the consequences of them actions are on you also. And in my eyes, Wallace died because of this exact mentality. As if D'Angelo or Poot had just told Wallace that Stringer and Avon wanted him gone, he could have easily just left again and stayed up in the country. However, nobody said anything, and they all just accepted Wallace's decision to come back despite knowing what they knew. And they did this simply because they didn't feel responsible, especially D'Angelo, as Avon taught Dee after the murder of Gant that it's not on him. A man's actions are his own, and so too is everything that comes after that. It truly is a tragedy that Wallace spent his life feeling responsible for children he had no business being responsible for, only to tragically find out that nobody felt responsible for him. But let me know down in the comments section your guys' opinion. Was Wallace to blame for his own undoing, or was somebody else to blame?